Hello, this is Daniel Mart back again at MCF 2018 with more interviews. This time here I am with
Sasha Vikovic.
and
Teresa Doran.
and they're here to present their film Flora. And yeah, can you basically start off a bit on that? What's the general synopsis for Flora?
Sure. Flora is a period piece.
Mhm.
It takes place in 1929, and it's about a botany expedition into an uncharted forest,
Okay.
where this group of university Ivy League botanists discover a really ancient floral organism. And so it's a suspense piece. It's a mystery. It kind of draws on old science fiction like Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, as far as like stylistic choices. And yeah, we're really proud of it.
Right. And you're the director, right?
Yeah, I'm a director, writer, producer, and I also design the sets for the piece. And this is Teresa.
I'm an actress, art director, associate producer, and assistant director on the piece.
Yeah.
And basically, like H.G. Wells and stuff like that. What would be like some of your major inspirations in making the film?
My major inspirations come from actually not necessarily a specific piece.
Right.
Stylistically, those were things that I drew on because I knew that in that period there was science fiction that was being written, and there were people in the 1920s who were being inspired, just like scientists and young people who were reading a lot of those novels. And I thought that was a really cool way to place a science fiction piece in a time when these people are, consuming early science fiction.
Right.
But the inspiration for writing it was actually my own curiosity about plants and about how we as organisms interact with them and the ways in which we rely on plants every single day and the dangers that come with that and also the benefits that come with that. And so my original inspirations were just like a seek for knowledge, like science.
And how did you guys go about writing the script itself?
So I wrote the script alone. And I went about some extensive months of research into the period because that's really important. I think it's really important to create like a stable foundation for once the actors and the rest of the people come into the project, the rest of the crew come into the project, that they have a good foundation on which to discover and build. And I also, as far as the characters were in creating them, there were certain actors who I had in mind when I was writing the piece, and Teresa plays the lead character in the film, and she was a major inspiration for me writing that character in the way that I did, and also I was really interested in this piece especially to create something where I could work with some of the artists who I really admired, and she's one of them.
Right.
Aura is the most Hermione Granger version of me, I will say. She's a lot like me, but she's the most Hermione part of me.
What was your inspiration actually portraying Aura?
So, like Sasha said, we went to school together. So we've been friends for a very long time. And so it was really cool to kind of have the first experience of a writer saying that a role was like me. So approaching the script, when I would see things that she would say, I would get like a huge laugh sometimes about like, oh my gosh, that's totally something I would say or something I would do. And then there were other moments that were more of a stretch. So the circumstances that Aura is under are very extreme. She's going through life or death circumstances. So it's kind of, once you get into that, it's how would I behave under that. Aura is very fierce and very strong. She's an artist. So it was cool to know that it was based off of me, and then cool to explore the aspects of her that were not me. The drawings that are in the film were done by an amazing artist called Vincent, and it's actually Sasha's cousin, and he's awesome. And so I worked with him a lot because I also am an artist, and as the art director, I got to work with him and kind of designing what those pieces would look like, and then on the day, filling in to make it look like I did that work too. So that was amazing.
She's an incredible artist in her own right. Aura as a character is also a botanical illustrator, and so that in a large way, the art of that character came out of my knowledge that she has a very, very strong ability to create through images as well.
Right. So that's cool.
Nice. Like this story is different because you typically don't see these type of story people from like back in the 1900s going into explorations to seek these unknown things. So when when you had kind of that realization, basically, why exactly did you decide to go with that story in particular, essentially?
Well, the expedition piece element to it was I I wanted a lot of the process that we were going to experience as like a crew and as cast to mirror what the characters were going to experience throughout the story. So creating a movie in the way in which we did, it was very much like our own expedition into the woods, into this environment. And so it was interesting for me to be like, to create a characters who were going through that same experience, so that our journey was mirroring their journey in certain ways. And kind of like the creating pieces of mystery when you're creating like a thirst for knowledge. That was really intriguing to me, and expeditions were a really prominent thing at the last 50 years of the 1800s and then into the early 1900s, and universities would do that. And I also wanted to create a piece about young people, where basically our entire cast and our entire crew is all around the age of like 20s to 30s, and so I wanted like to build a piece that was about youth learning. And an expedition was really good fodder for that. It also allowed us to, like when designing the piece, when writing it as well, the primary set of almost the entire film is the forest, and the forest in different locations. And I was interested in creating a piece where you were exploring those locations without it simply being like there are people who are going out into the woods. It was they are going out into the woods and they're studying those woods and they're exploring different elements of that forest. And I thought that would be interesting for an audience to experience.
And like since you're acting the film, how do you because you spent since the forest is a huge part of the film, how do you think that affected like your character? Just how the way you viewed the character. How do you think the forest, because the forest in and of itself is a character of its own. So how do you think that like inspired you in portraying your character?
Hugely. I think that the way in which our film set was run really allowed us as actors to not have to do too much putting ourselves in the moment, if you will. Like we were in the moment. We were living in a cabin. We were out in the middle of the woods all of the time. So when we showed up to set, we were ready. And things that were the elements that would have affected these characters were affecting us, except for, I don't think this is a spoiler at this point. There are no, is it a spoiler? Can I say that there's no bugs, right? Like we can say that.
You talk about the mosquitoes.
Okay, there were a lot of mosquitoes, and that was like very, very. It was rough because like you would be doing a scene, and then all of a sudden like one would be like in the middle of your face, and you'd have to not hit it or not react to it being there, and then just trust that it was going to go away in post. And actually that's like something that's such a fun fact about our film. I think this might be a spoiler. Okay, I gotta stop. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling things.
But the
writers over here like, don't give away my plot points.
No way. Mosquitoes were a huge. It's really crazy when you're shooting something in the woods. Like, so there's an element of, again, putting all the people who are portraying these characters in the environments that they're actually portraying. There's no CG in the film. There's nothing that's computer generated in any way. It's completely on location. And so what the audience is seeing, hopefully, when they're watching the movie is this lush, incredible landscape consistently. And for the actors and for me as a creator, it's very inspiring. I think that you are in that environment and you're able to actually walk around the sets that are fully built. And then you do, because you are contending with nature. You contend with all of nature, and so you get the rain and the storms and the heat and the bugs and the everything.
That was the other thing that was so cool. I've never been an art director before, and coming up to decorate the sets with Sasha beforehand, being able to touch all of the props and decide where they go really connected me to my environment in a way that I've never been connected before. Typically as an actor, I'll come on and I'll have to go around and discover it all for the first time, whereas this time around I was a part of totally. I had already, I bought the gas masks on eBay, so I knew what they were going to look like, and so I was connected to the physical world in a way that I've never been before.
This is a question I just like to ask, like actors in general, because I always feel like the response is always interesting. But like, how is it work? Okay, compared to like previous directors you've worked with, how different is it when working with him as compared to previous directors?
Totally. I think that the one thing that Sasha has that that kind of sets him apart is that he trained so long as an actor that he understands what actors are going through.
Right.
So I found that he built the world and made me feel very safe within the world because he knew it so well. He knew that land, he knew the script like the back of his hand because it came from him. And also I will say working with a writer-director is such a privilege because he knows you go to him. He's the source. So he knows right away if you have a question about your character, you're like, well, you invented her in your brain. So what would she say and what would she do? So that was brilliant. So I think, yeah, he's really an actor's director in that sense that he's, he knows what he's talking about.
And then for you as a director, how is it, working with this cast and crew as compared to previous projects you've done?
Well, this is my first feature. It's also my first film, kind of in any capacity, other than like childhood attempts at things. It's been like a massive learning curve for me. As a writer, I have written scripts before. This is my first screenplay as well. I've written pieces for the theater, but again, nothing that's like full length. It's really like brand spanking new.
Right.
Like I'm a baby. So it's been a massive learning process, and one of the greatest things involved in the project has been finding the artists along the way who are amazing collaborators and really, really giving with their abilities, and who basically came on board with me and basically went on the journey with me and have learned with me and have learned in their own crafts along the way. And one of the best things about the entire process was kind of saying, yeah, we're going to make a feature, and the people who are willing and hungry for doing something like that, large and big, it's here. And if you take advantage of it, you will shine. And so Teresa's like an amazing example of that. Right. She came on as an actress to the project and immediately was like, do you have an art director? I'm really interested in doing the art direction. I know that she's a really great visual artist. And I was like, that would be fantastic. You have an amazing sense of color. You have an amazing sense of imagery. That would be one but detail. And then throughout the process, as we were going through it, we were realizing, okay, there are certain gaps which need to be filled by certain people, and she filled them in amazing ways. And we had, again, across the board, our composer is brilliant composer. He plays in the score. He plays a majority of the instruments that are being played. In other situations where he's not playing the instruments himself, he has a studio that he works out of, and he would be running sessions with other musicians. And after the session, he'd be like, "Hey, can you play this piece of music for me?" Right. And he would get an amazing saxophonist or an amazing cellist to do a piece of music, basically for him as a favor in a way. Right. And we created this most amazing soundtrack because he's somebody who's really resourceful. Right. So as a director, the process for me has been one of finding fantastic artists, collaborating with really, really brilliant people, and gaining tons and tons of tools for when I make my next film.
And would you work with this same cast and crew again?
I would work with many of them again, yes. They're really, really wonderful.
Nice. And now that your film is, circulating film festivals and whatnot, what do you basically hope the audience reaction is? What do you hope they get out of the film?
Totally. Well, we're kind of like nearing the end of our festival run, which is really exciting. Okay. We premiered in April of last year, and in London, in England, and we won Best Feature there. Yes. And thank you. And we've had like a very good festival run, actually. We've shown in a lot of places, and we've been able to show the movie to a lot of audiences. Right. And we're working on distribution right now, which is very exciting.
Right. That must be exciting, especially for first-time director. That must be incredible, mind blown.
Yeah. Well, the process for the entire cast and crew has always been, we're going to push this thing until it's out there into the world. So it's always been the plan.
And has anybody ever commented on your performance?
Yeah. we got to show the film in my hometown. So I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota originally, and I think that was my favorite reaction to the film. So that was really special to have people who've known me since I was a child get to see me perform on screen. So of all the reactions, that not to pick favorites, because we've had such an amazing festival run, and every single festival we've gone to has been so inspiring and so welcoming, and especially for like a first feature, it's all we could have ever hoped for. So.
I think the most exciting element, because I didn't answer your question originally, is that kind of went off on a tangent. The most exciting reactionary element that I have to it is, or I have seen, is when people get really just engrossed in the story.
Right.
And they stop talking about the details, or they are simply interested in why did that character do that, and why did that character do that, and are just kind of fascinated with the world of it, and then start asking me questions or talking to each other about what the world is that exists around that. It's so interesting when you write a story, and then all of a sudden you basically spend 3 years producing that story.
Right.
That's like that initial seed of, okay, I want people to know this tale and I want them to learn about it, and then to question it and think about it. You come back to that like when the film is done,
Right.
which is really, really interesting. So it's cool. It's like an idea, and like ideas that I had 3 years ago, people are now talking to me about and like getting invested in and discussing.
Yeah. And just throughout this, from pre-production, filming, everything, what would you guys, both of you, have to say is what's your favorite part of just doing everything? Just off you.
My favorite part of the whole process is the day when I present the script to the crew and the cast. And when I call them and when I give them that piece and they can see the adventure we're going to go on.
Okay.
That for me is immensely exciting.
As an actor and now as a producer and art director, I'd have to say it's actually the same day. As an actress who has mostly worked in theater, my very, 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 very favorite thing is getting a script for the first time and going through and highlighting and reading and making notes in the margins and kind of doing the homework of it all.
It's like when we get to be an audience. Like Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it's very cool.
I totally agree with that. That's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Where's my character?
Yeah, whereas the highlight and research, the research aspect of it has been really cool.
You guys are in MECF 2018. What's been your favorite experience just here at this film festival in particular? What's been your favorite experience thus far?
We actually just arrived right last night, so
you
are our favorite experience so far.
You are our favorite.
Yeah.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
I literally just saw him yell over. I'm like, hey, interview.
Right now. Here we go.
Yeah. We watched it.
I met them like maybe 2 hours earlier, and I barely introduced myself, but that's great. Aside from your film, you'll hopefully see a bunch of other great films from a bunch of other great filmmakers. Just some animated stuff, sci-fi, of course, horror. There's a bunch of great films, including yours. So hopefully, by the end of this, I'm still the best part. But that's interesting. And would you? Maybe it's too early to ask, but maybe next year, or any year afterwards, would you like to come back here and maybe present another film, or just to, as an audience, would you like to come back?
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Troy has been awesome. We met him in London, and so he's known us kind of since our day one of festival run. So we're really excited to be here.
We are.
So again, Flora, you're director, lead actress, producer, writer, art director.
Yes.
What else am I missing?
Production designer.
Again, there's films called Flora. The director is
Sasha Vikovic,
and Teresa Marie Doran.
Teresa,
Thank you.
So that's basically it for now. Thanks for joining me, guys, again. Thank you for being the favorite part. And that's basically it for now. Look out for a bunch of more interviews coming soon. And that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing